Hi guys, let's get started. This is our weekly assignment 2. Each member of our group did a research on this week's assignment, and then we will explain our part separately. For the first question, according to the introduction of this paper, several economists have concluded such evidence like higher minimum wages do not reduce employment as well as the professions, pointing out that higher minimum wage would not have an adverse effect on employment. Neuromark's position is that a huge body of research evidence does not find an unemployment effect of the minimum wage, and much of the evidence needs to be discarded or ignored. The second question is to describe an empirical challenge in trying to estimate the effect of a minimum wage change on employment. The changes in the minimum wage often cause employers to change the size of their workforces. However, for some workers or in some cases, employment can be increased or decreased. The change in employment will be reflected in the number of these workers. To be honest, one challenge is that a higher minimum wage widens the gap between expected employment returns and unemployment, causing unemployed workers to make more effort to find them. For the third question, in your own words, why is there no discussion here or in the popular press or among advocates about what the optimal minimum wage should be? What does that tell you about where the $15 national wage came from? In my opinion, setting a national minimum wage of $15 is to stabilize the economy, just as this wage came from the government to protect workers in the labor force. That will lead to higher wages for workers, and it will benefit communities across the country. Since lower paid workers will spend most of their extra income, this injection of wages will help stimulate the economy, spurring greater business activity and job growth. I'm finished. Who's next?
I will continue from the fourth question. Um, the fourth question is, how does this paper address the concerns that is cherry-picking evidence in order to present its finding on what we know about the minimum wage? I think the author first talked about the evidence for employment and minimum wage is ambiguous, then give examples of some papers that discuss this relationship. He then talks about how some classic papers have opposite ideas. In this way, he used these ideas to address his point that the concerns that the evidence is cherry picking. And for the fifth questions, if there are papers that were not published, according to Keqi, type 1 error will emerge, which means our result or the correlations between employment and the minimum wage would be bigger than the true one. And for the six questions, um, the author generally looked for the explicit summary measures for each paper's conclusion in terms of specific elasticities, and when provided, matched those to the table in which estimates appear. When this method was not clear, they read the descriptions of the paper's tables in the context of methodological point that authors intended the paper to capture the estimate or estimates that most fully reflect the contribution of the paper. And they did not capture the estimate presented as supplementary or a supplementary analysis. This led them to identify one or more estimates from each paper. In some cases, multiple estimates were necessary. as some papers report estimates for multiple industries or for different age groups and do not distinguish or identify a preferred group, industry, etc. To mitigate the issue, the authors emailed the author of every study included their paper, asking them to report to us the preferred estimate result from their study. And the New York Times version of work will simply just look at the explicit reviews of the paper's summary. That is the difference of the author's work. That's all.
For the question number 7, what is a meta-analysis and how is this paper different? The meta-analysis is an examination of data from number of independent studies of the same subject in order to determine overall trends. And the difference is that first, the approach focus on the conclusion or preferred estimates from each study. Secondly, their approach is focusing on arriving at a single estimate. They are more interested in documenting and understanding the distribution of estimates. Third, their analysis responds to this problem by not only summarizing the overall distribution of estimates and conclusions in the minimum wage literature, but also understanding how this distribution varies with key study feature. For question number 8, describe what the author had to do to find all the peer-reviewed scholarly papers that have been published on this topic. The way they found it is first, they began with the published paper listing the comprehensive survey of study of the employment effect of minimum wage in New York and Washer. Then they added the published paper in the meta-analysis of Wilson and Bellman, which covered roughly the prior 15 years and hence most papers subsequent to the first survey. Finally, they supplemented the list of published papers using web search in Google Scholar for minimum wage cover the year 1992 to 2020. That's it.
Okay, so question 9. The paper aims to present the distribution of the main findings or preferred findings of the entire literature. So it shows reporting simple tables with simple averages. Describe the way they present the data and use their own words to interpret the distributions. The way they use is called analysis of analysis, and focusing on the conclusions or preferred estimates from each study. To achieve a full understanding of the distribution of estimates, it studied its negativity, variability, and central tendency. Question 10. Describe one more of the question the authors ask to examine the generality and the veracity of the findings. Many other students always give ambiguous statements with many other studies always give ambiguous statements with phrases like on the one hand, on the other hand. To avoid biased conclusion, the authors meticulously present the distribution of the main findings. That's it.
Question number 11. Labor for labor substitution is thought to be a possible explanation for why some studies do not show decrease in high count and hour worked. Explain what this means. According to this article, when the minimum wage increases, the job opportunities and job hour of low skill, low age, and low education worker will towards high skill, high education, and older workers. From the perspective of the industry, the number of appointment person and working hour will not be significantly reduced because low level workers job opportunity flow to middle and high level. This means the job opportunity for low skilled workers are replaced by high skilled workers. Question number 12. Young adult negative employment outcome are worse than the teens. Why is this important? This is important because the data proves that the evidence of adverse employment affected is by no means limited to teens. This means that young adults have a larger adverse employment affected than teens. So they have instigate a large number of teens, so their data shows stay stable. Okay.
That's all. Thank you.